Today we're building a JMT 7. This build will work across the JMT range with two variants, which I'll talk about when we get to them. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to unclip the box, cut it open with either a pair of snips or a pair of scissors, and I'm going to get a colleague of mine to help me lift it out of the box so we can start the build. So my colleagues helped me lift the bike onto the box. Our next step is to remove all the packaging. Again, using scissors or snips. Just be careful as you do this. You want to disconnect all the loose components, so we have a seat post, a wheel, and some fenders in the back. You're going to remove all the packaging and then we'll be back to do the build. So we've unpackaged the trike. We're now going to move on to what's in the hardware box. Open it up, you'll find your battery charger, some spare screws, touch-up paint, and your toolkit. In here you'll also have your pedals and your instructions. Now the toolkit will have the majority of the tools that you need, but one thing I would recommend finding is an adjustable spanner. I like to use this because it's a bit easier than using the individual spanners. And we're going to go on to fit in the handlebars. So this is the first variant. If you have a JMT 3 or a JMT 9, have a look on our YouTube site and you'll find the JMT 3 or 9 handlebar assembly. So moving on to the JMT 7, you're going to need your number 5 T Allen key, and you'll find that here at the top you have a spacer protector. So popping that in, twist into the left, you'll be able to take that off, pop it somewhere, you don't need it. Noticing that you have 3 spacers here, leave them in place, grab your handlebars, which you've unpackaged, and what you'll need to do is protecting this Allen bolt here, you'll have this little cap, so you need to remove that cap. You can prise it off with your nails or use a screwdriver, then placing it straight over the top, shimmy him down. Might take a little bit of movement, but it'll sit nice and flush over those spacers. Grabbing your 5. Now this bolt is quite long, so it's going to take a bit of turning, so if you just keep turning until it gets nice and tight. So I'll tighten this down, and when it gets down, so I'll finish that in a bit. What you need to do at the front here is, once your stem bolt is secure and tight, you're going to want to tighten these 2 bolts either side. Now, instead of doing one all the way and then the other, do them in increments. So you want to tighten this one a bit, then come to the other side. And what we're looking for is this space in the middle here. We want it to equally clamp. We don't want it to just be tighter on the top than it is on the bottom. You'll find some resistance eventually, and when you do, just give it one final turn. So for me, that's a bit tight. And then here, a couple more turns. And what you'll do is, by equally doing this, you're securing the handlebars well. So once they're in place and everything's nice and tight, we're going to move on to the next stage. Our next step is going to be fitting the front wheel. This is the second variant we have on the JMT range. If you have a JMT 7 or a JMT 9, you will have a quick release front wheel. If you have a JMT 3 or a JMT 6, have a look on our YouTube videos for the JMT 3 and 6 front wheel assembly and removal video. But to fit this quick release, what we're going to do is, you'll have the spindle here. You'll have a lever on the left hand side, the end on the right, and you're just going to lift the forks up. Your disc brake is here, and you want to make sure that you pop it just between those 2 calipers there. You see you have a nice gap. So lift the forks up. You might need a hand to pop these up. Place it over the spindle and it'll just drop. Twist that to the back with your right hand, and then with your left you'll start to feel some tension here on the lever. So twist with the right, and then when you've got tension, you can just push it towards the back of the bike. You want to push it so it's tight enough that you feel an imprint in your hand, and you want to push it to the back. You never want it facing forwards because it may get caught on sticks and whatnot. Once it's on, that is your front wheel ready to go. To fit the front fender, you're going to need an adjustable spanner and your Allen key. This is a 5mm Allen. Unwrapping your front fender, you'll also need to locate this long bolt. It's sometimes found in the front of the fork, or you'll find it in your hardware box. Taking the nut off the end, place the bolt somewhere safe. So this can be a little bit finicky. So you have the 2 prongs and you're going to want to put them either side of the fork. Grabbing your light, you're going to sandwich it in. So you see how it fits either side, and you're going to put the light between the back of the fork and the last supporting bar. So then feed in the bolt at the front. It's going to go through the fork, through the light. This is where it can get fiddly. Once it's through the front of the fender, it pretty much holds it in place. So then you can locate it and push him through. There you go. Grab your nut, pop him on the back, hand screw it on to begin with. Again, you can see fender arm, fork, light, fender arm. Get your adjustable spanner, tighten it onto the back of the bolt just up here, get your number 5 and then just twist round to the right. Make sure it's nice and tight. Go. Once it's nice and tight, you can then do micro adjustments to move it left and right, and the light pivots depending on the terrain that you're on. And that is your front fender. So we're going to attach the LCD screen. So looking at the front of the bike, you'll find 2 cables with green fittings. You'll notice this one has some holes in it, this one has some prongs. The advantage is they're both triangular, so it helps you locate the orientation to fit them together. If in doubt, look for the 2 arrows here. So you line them up and you push them nice and snug. Next, using a pair of scissors or snips, you're going to snip the keys off the handlebar and then pop them in the battery so that we know that they're nice and safe. And then we'll move on to the next build. Next, we're going to be fitting the pedals and putting the seat post in. The best idea is to grease up the thread of the pedal and also the end of the seat post. This helps with any metal wear. You'll notice on the end of the pedals, it'll say WL and WR. WL is for the left-hand side of the bike. WR is for the right-hand side of the bike. When fitting the pedal, what you want to do is you want to twist to the front of the bike. So hold in the crank arm, pop it in, and then twist to the front. There you go. Once you've got it seated, a little trick for you is holding the pedal, twist backwards, and it will wind itself on. If you don't want to do that, you can just find the 15mm spanner from your kit and you can hand wind it on instead. Ooh, going to the front of the bike. Make sure it's nice and tight. Then once that's on, grabbing your seat post, pop it into the channel, and then you'll notice that maybe it's a little bit too slack. Twist towards the front of the bike to tighten it. And again, you're going to want to make sure that this has an imprint on your hands. So twist towards the front to tighten the seat post and towards the back to loosen it. So there we go. Obviously making sure it's facing the front of the bike. Fitting the rear fenders, you're going to need your 5mm T Allen. You'll also find the bolts are already screwed into the fenders, so don't go looking for them, they'll be screwed in. And these work with a regular washer. You'll have a spring washer, that's one with a cut in it, and that's what you'll need for fitting them. I've already popped the right one on. So holding the fender in place, you're going to want it about 1 inch above the tyre. Feed it through the back basket and just hand tighten it into the fender for now. This is just so secures it slightly, so there's one. You can rest the fender on the wheel, you don't need to hold it the whole time. Grab the second one, feed it through, and again hand tighten. Then grabbing your T Allen, hold the fender in place, like I said, about 1 inch above the wheel, pop it inside, just tighten that up so it's super tight. You can have it lower and you can have it higher. This is mainly your preference. But once it's nice and tight, you're good to ride. So now that we've built our JMT, we're going to go through some final checks. First thing to do is check underneath the silicone panel here. You'll find a red button. That is off, that is on. You want to turn the battery on and close that panel. If you have a JMT 3, 6 or 9, your battery will be located underneath the seat post and you can find the relevant video on YouTube. Coming to the handlebars, you're going to want to turn the display on, so holding the power button here for 3 seconds. The display will light up. Again, the display on the JMT 7 is a colour screen. On the JMT 3, 6 and 9, you have a mono screen, so check the videos for that one. To turn the lights on the bike, you're going to hold the light button down. You'll notice the front light comes on. The rear light will be on too. To turn the lights off, hold the light button. You're going to want to check the throttle. To do this, just take a step back from the rear wheel because you don't want it to bite you. And just gently press that button down. The ball. Oops. So, turn the system off now. You'll want to inflate the tyres before you go for a ride, so make sure that you get a track pump. You can find the tyre pressure on the side of the tyre. On the JMT range, this is 30 psi. But other than that, your charger is located in your hardware box. For any other videos or instructions on our JMT range, please look at our YouTube channel.